In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the use of plugins in WordPress platform. So let's begin. Jumping right in, let me navigate to our dashboard here. Just click on dashboard. And then under appearance, there's an option called plugins, right? So plugins is, again, something that you can install, and there are hundreds and thousands of plugins available. All you have to do is just search. All you have to do is search for the right plugin that is appropriate to your website that you like to use. So let's click on plugins. First, to see how many plugins are installed already in our WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and click on install plugins, and this will navigate to the plugins page where I know I have 2 plugins, right? And these are by default installed, and just to protect you from spam is one of the plugins, and the other one symbolizes the hope and enthusiasm of an entire generation summed up in 2 words, right? So just a couple of standard plugins that are installed when you install any theme. But what if we were to use some additional plugins? For instance, we would like to add some sliders, right? Some interactive sliders on our home page. At this point, our home page is pretty standard, right? It's a static home page. There are various plugins that we can find. So by clicking on Add New, we get to the Add Plugins page. And of course, various categories are displayed, such as featured, popular, recommended, and favorites. And I can scroll down and try to find different plugins, right? These are similar to like apps, right? Install apps, and then you configure them according to your own requirement, right? So I'm looking for sliders, right? So I'm going to say something like slider, for instance, and hit the enter key in the search criteria. And WordPress is going to go out there on the net and find tons and tons of plugins that has this keyword called slider. And I can navigate down and take a look at the reviews and the number of installs that are out there that people have installed on their platforms or blogs, and so on. Okay, so just play with them depending upon your own requirement. So for instance, I'm going to use this meta slider. So I'm going to click on install now. Before you can actually install now, you can always take a look at more details, right? So let me right click and open this more details into a new window, because I'm going to show you this, and navigate to the new window before we install the plugin. You can read more about the plugin, see what this does. It says the most popular WordPress slider plugin. It creates slideshows with meta slider is fast and easy. You can simply select the images from the WordPress media library and drag and drop them, and it will create a slider for you. You can take a look at the installation process, see some screenshots of what the slider looks like, and so on. Okay, so this gives you an idea of the slider and so on. So let me close this. Let's go back to our dashboard and click on install now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on install meta slider. And once you install these plugins, you can always remove them. Okay, so nothing is permanent in WordPress. You can remove them and install another one. Of course, you'd have to reconfigure that slider, but it just takes a few seconds to install the plugin and click on activate plugin, and WordPress is going to add the meta slider to your existing plugin page, right? And it's activated. In other words, as soon as it's activated, notice on the left side on the navigation pane, you'll see another option called meta slider. And once I see this option, I can simply go to the meta slider and start configuring this plugin. Pretty straightforward process. No programming at this point. Okay, we'll get to that later. But for right now, just basic, easy to use configurations and customization in WordPress. So let's click on create our first slideshow. It brings up the slides page, and here you can add a slide. For instance, I'm going to go ahead and add a slide. Of course, I need to pick an image, right? So let's pick this image. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to say slider play desk here, and of course copy it and use the same as my alt text, my description, and I'm going to add this slider. I can change the width, the height, the effect, for example, from fade. I can have it swirl, rain, and so on. Okay, so depending upon my own requirement, the theme, arrows, and so on, and certain advanced settings. This is important, the usage. there's an option called shortcode. Okay, whatever you create a slideshow or a slider or use a plugin. Okay, and again, I say this is important. It's easier to use your shortcode, right? And what this does, it allows you to insert the slider onto that page, or insert the actual plugin onto that page, or the area within that page, right? So it'll come clear once we are finished with creating a slider. Then I'll demonstrate how to use this shortcode, but just the concept, right? Great. So I've added this first slide. Of course, I can always use the caption here if I choose to, or I can provide the URL. So someone clicks on the slider, they'll be navigated to another page. So I can say something like HTTPS, and then of course type my URL and say something like e-learning, and I can click on new window. So if they click on the slider, a new window will open and they'll be navigated to this URL. Okay, let's add another slider. How about this person jump in here, and of course change my text. And I'm just using this sample text here. Of course, when you're actually doing it for yourself, you need to make sure that you provide the appropriate text. Okay, so click add to slider, and I have my second slider. I'm going to use, in fact, the same link. Just simply copy it and paste it for this link also, and click on new window. So just two sliders. Width, height, for right now it's standard. Let's take a look at by clicking on save and preview, or just save. Both options are available to you. Now remember, before we save and preview and go further, you want to be able to copy this code, right? So I'm just going to highlight this and Control C on my keyboard to copy it, right? Or just remember it says in brackets meta slider ID equals 25, and you'll see in just a minute how we use this shortcode. So once we have this meta slider configured, I'm going to click on save and preview, and this is going to show me before actually implementing it on the site. Okay, well, this guy seems pretty large. Oops, let's go back. Our first slider is okay. Second slider, well, the image doesn't look really great, so I'm going to cancel, remove this person by clicking on the delete slide. Click OK. Yes, I'm sure I want to delete this. And of course, add a new slide. How about if I change and use another image, right? Click add to slider and see what that looks like. Of course, I can always change the heights and width of the slider as well. So click save and preview, and let's see what these two sliders look like. So here's my first slider, and it's going to fade away to my second slider. Perfect. This looks great. Two sliders, right? So close this, and once I'm done, I'm satisfied. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and now my sliders are created and saved. But they're not on my website. For example, if I were to go to visit my site, notice nothing happens, right? There's nothing here, because so far all I've done is I've created these sliders by downloading the plugin and simply configured the plugin. To insert a slider onto our page, we will need to go to a page and then use the shortcode on that page. Let me show you this. Let's go back to our sliders, scroll down. Here's our shortcode. Just make sure you copy it again, just to be on the safe side. Control C. Go to our pages, and our home page is right here. So I'm going to click on home page to edit, and right above, or the very first thing that I like to insert is the, let me go switch to the visual tab here. It's easier to see. Perfect. So right above the text where it says welcome to our new website, I'm going to insert the shortcode. Now I want to show you something else here. If I enter the shortcode here within my visual tab and preview the change, notice my sliders show up, right? And then text follows. Pretty neat. Similarly, I can change the slider to be displayed below the text. So simply remove the slider from here and then go to the next line, for instance, and paste the shortcode here. Click preview changes, and this time the slider is going to be below my text. Pretty neat. So let me go back and in fact move my slider up here and then update the page, right? So if I update the page, now my slider is permanently displayed on my home page. So if I were to go and visit my site now, notice I'll see my sliders. And notice there's a link to these sliders, right? And recall, I linked the first slider. If I were to click on this link, it'll open a new window and it will take us to the page or the URL that was specified on that slider. And this was the Claydesk e-learning page. So this way you can create your own sliders. You can take a look at where you want to place those sliders on your page, whether it's on your home page or any other page that you like. So let's go back to our dashboard. So plugins are a great way of incorporating various elements onto your website or different pages. Okay, and we'll work with a few more plugins in the subsequent lessons, and those are helpful when you're doing development in WordPress. But for right now, I just wanted to show you quickly how to go about finding a plugin, adding a plugin, and then configuring a plugin. So I hope this helps. Practice, and let's move to our next lesson.